enmeshment is this sense of like your self-worth fluctuates with your P&L. If you're not profitable, if you didn't make enough money today, that suddenly you are not valuable. Like that there's that separation and you are connected to your business, almost like your business is like some sort of parasite leeching off of your body.
You are listening to Personal Development Mastery, the podcast that empowers you with the simple and consistent actions to take that will help you create a life of purpose and fulfillment. I am your host, Aggi, and this is episode 394. If you'd like to discover how you can ignite profound personal and professional transformation simply by aligning with your core values, then this episode is for you. By listening today, not only will you discover how to align your entrepreneurial spirit with your core values, but you will also learn practical strategies for establishing healthy boundaries between your identity and your business. Before we dive in this fascinating conversation, if you enjoy listening and appreciate what we're doing here, the simple, quick favor I'm asking of you is to click the subscribe button. Now let's get started. Today it is my pleasure to speak with Lauren Gaggioli. Lauren, you are a digital entrepreneur, organic content marketing expert, and a big believer in intentional living. You have over a decade of experience in online business, and you are passionate about helping fellow entrepreneurs find purpose, balance, and fulfillment in their lives. Lauren, welcome to the show. It's such a pleasure to speak with you today.
I'm so grateful to be here today. Thank you so much, Aggi, for the opportunity.
I'm so much looking forward to the conversation, and we will explore today through your own, lens of entrepreneurial insights. I want to explore intentional living and purpose-driven endeavors. Before we go there, tell me about a key defining moment in your entrepreneurial journey that led you to prioritize this purpose-driven living, as you say.
Absolutely. So I got my start. Now I do SEO. I help folks get found on the internet through Google, but which is a far cry from what I started with. I started as an ACT and SAT tutor. And I was working with students at home. I graduated to online courses and offering those through my own company and as a solopreneur. So I was working myself to the bone, as were my students, right? All these students who are caught up in the college admissions process here in the States. It's a heavy lift for them. And I was teaching arguably the hardest part of it because it is really hard to study for a test when the result and the rewards are so far off. It's just so counter to our culture of like instant gratification. So I found that these teens, some of them were diving in and eating it up and they understood the assignment and they were on it and doing the thing. And others were floundering. And I started to observe the difference and just notice the difference between them. And the main distinction I found was that the kids who were really knuckling under and doing the thing, they understood what they were going towards. They had a sense of their purpose and what they wanted to accomplish in their life, like bigger picture than just, I want to go to X college. Although for some that was enough of a carrot. The ones who really did the work, and I'm not tying that to their actual results, that the ones who were committed to actually taking the daily action towards improving from whatever their starting point was, they had a sense of this through line of their life. They had a sense of where they wanted to go. And so I realized that to help those students who were floundering and also in the moment help them with a very large part of the college admissions process, which is the personal statement, the essay that they write about their lives. These kids are going, I haven't even lived and you want me to write about my life. Giving them the hook of their big why was something that I felt could really help them see sort of the destination, see where the needle on the compass was pointing. And so I crafted a curriculum to support them with that. And it's a shame, we were talking about this before we went live. We don't teach this in school. And so these students, they were struggling. And what I found as I crafted a curriculum, I'd done a lot of reading and done self-help and therapy. And, I was working on me. And I assumed that this course was sort of running alongside that. Like I was just a little bit down the path and I was leading these kids. And then I realized, oh, wait a second. I'm crafting this curriculum for myself as much as I am for them. It really is applicable to all of us who feel untethered from our sense of purpose. And it came none too soon, because at the time that I created it, I had 2 little kids, and the identity of mother can absolutely overwhelm, or parent even, but for me, mother was starting to overwhelm my full identity, my fullest expression of me. And so it was really a helpful exercise to gain clarity and insight. And that's how I ended up creating the course around purpose.
It's fascinating when you said about the sense of purpose and children or the students. For me, I hadn't thought of it. Is more the sense of purpose is more in my mind related to an adult rather than. And so it was a great realization when you were sharing that it is certainly not. And at that age. Well, you found that out with what you were doing also. So from children to entrepreneurs, and I would like to focus our conversation today to, you mentioned already the big why, you said it like that. But apart from, the personal purpose, many of us have, let's say, a business purpose or entrepreneurial purpose, or there are many ways that, but I won't describe them myself. I much rather let you describe those and tell me what your take is on this purpose, taking your learnings over the years.
So, confession, I am a people pleaser. I am very much naturally inclined to shapeshift and chameleon myself in what I perceive others need from me. This can absolutely be the death of balance in an online business where people can contact you any time of day and you feel like you have to be Johnny on the spot answering all the emails. As I already mentioned, that identity of mother, that can really overwhelm you. And suddenly you're jumping through the hoops of a toddler's demands because you want to be attentive and meet their needs. And then, daughter, sister, partner, all the other identities that come with it. And what I started to realize was that by taking on all these roles, and the tipping point was becoming a mother because it made it the reality so stark. The fragmentation of purpose actually ends up, I think, fragmenting our sense of self and our sense of ownership to ourselves and responsibility to take care of ourselves. It's that age-old, if you put your own oxygen mask on first analogy in a plane. And so what I realized is that by meeting everybody else's needs, the person's needs I wasn't meeting was mine. I was starting to feel really burnt out, really resentful of the roles I had actively chosen. And it was nobody else's fault but mine because I chose that. And I shouldn't say even fault. I hadn't realized the cost. And so by stepping back and naming a singular purpose, it brought me home to me and gave me a sense of groundedness and permission to really assess whether or not I was living in my purpose. I know a lot of people, their aim is happiness. Like we hear that a lot in personal development, right? The happiness project, you have all these different things. My aim has never been happiness per se. I'm a fairly positive person. My aim is fulfillment. I want to feel that I am achieving in the direction of my dreams. And so by naming your purpose and saying, my purpose is to, and in my case, it is to help others actualize their unrealized potential. So what that means is I help people uncover what already exists for them, their beautiful treasures that already live inside of them. And then I help them come up with an action plan to do more in that direction. I do it with my kids when I'm homeschooling, with my husband when he's having trouble at work, with my friends. I'm the person that people come to go, I'm lost, help, and I started to realize like this is a singular thread. I am the singular thread. And then I help in all these different ways. And because I have clarity about being able to name that, I can say every day that I live at least 15 minutes in my purpose. And that provides me a sense of fulfillment. And so it's not to say that I don't ever just go out with my girlfriends and have a nice meal and enjoy their company and have fun. Like, it's not to say that I'm always on the hunt to fix other people. Like, that is not it. I do it for myself as well, right? I'm always wanting to learn and grow and help myself deliver in the best way that I can. So having that clarity and saying, I am the person who holds this purpose, and these are the myriad ways that I live it out, it's a shift. I'm less fragmented because I know that whether it's a great conversation with my kid or I help somebody with my online business, or was a wonderful partner today in this direction, no matter the way that I apply it, I can say every day that I lived in my purpose. And so it's just a really powerful way to reconnect with yourself, this exercise of going through the process of naming your purpose and having it be singular.
If you enjoy this episode, can you think of one person that would find it useful and share it with them? I'd really appreciate it. It helps the show grow, and you will also be adding value to people you care about. Thank you. And now let's get back to the episode. Actually, this is exactly what I wanted to discuss with you even more, because you mentioned naming a singular purpose.
Yes.
And the exercise, as you said. So there are two questions regarding this. One is, what do you feel there are the main challenges in someone doing it like that? Because as simple as it sounds, it is not easy, and some people listening now might have tried this, some others not. But I wanted to ask, first of all, what do you think are the main challenges in doing that? And then I will ask you the next question after.
Wonderful. So I think there are three. And ironically, this is how I structured my course. My course is 8 sessions. It is 1 through 3 is addressing these challenges, of which there are 3. Then 2 lessons to really tease out that statement, and then 3 lessons on moving into action.
Okay.
So you can see the arc, right? And addressing those challenges, seeing those roadblocks, calling them into the light is how we start. And so the first thing that I have people do, this is going to sound weird, but as a people pleaser, it was a very important first step. I asked people to interview folks in their lives and ask questions about what those people perceive their strengths and weaknesses to be. What is their favorite memory? What career do they think I'd be successful at, one that I'm not doing right now? And by asking these questions of at least 3 key people in your life, and possibly more, you can start to see where the edge is of what expectations you've put on yourself that maybe others don't have, what beliefs you are holding that may have been gifted to you by other people in your life. Essentially, what box have you put yourself into, sometimes unwittingly, by virtue of the fact that we are impacted by those we're in relationship with, and especially deep and meaningful relationship. And so it's a really helpful exercise to call it into the light. And it's not with judgment. It's just to say, that's interesting. I didn't realize that that was the favorite memory. I remember my dad used to tell a story about me when I fully failed at swimming the butterfly at a swim meet. And I had no training, nothing. And I got out there and I did it. And he always told it, and I thought he was making fun of me. And it was one of his favorite memories of me because it showed my tenacity. So just the mindset switch around that is so helpful. And I think it's really just a powerful thing to do to get in connection with the people around you and go, I'm perceiving these expectations. Is this really true? Without leading with that, just letting them talk and share with you. So we get a sense of what those around you think. Step 2 is to dive into your not aspirational, but actually expressed values. So when you get a values list, we probably, if we're in personal development, if we like this space, then we've probably all done a values exercise. However, I've not really seen anybody parse it like this, where they say, hey, I know you want to be like the shiniest human ever. However, what actually exists versus what are you holding that is a should value that you aspire to, but maybe aren't actually expressing in your day-to-day life. We can add those aspirational values back later, but let's start with who we really are. Let's uncover, as Liz Gilbert says in Big Magic, uncover the treasures that already live inside of you. And so assessing what is, as opposed to reaching for what might be. So doing a values exercise through that lens is the next step, because we got to get really honest about the things we're actually naturally drawn to, because the truth is the best expression of your purpose already lives inside of you. You're already doing it in some form or fashion, but it's probably in fits and starts because of all the shoulds that our society and our relationships and our brains have heaped on us. And so quieting that mind and just looking at the truth is a really helpful process. And then third, we dream big. We go, what is the biggest, juiciest, meatiest life I could possibly live? Because I only get one shot at this. So dreaming and saying, I aspire to, really owning all of those desires of the Father. They are God-given, if you believe in God, universal given. That is from Jen Sincero. And I so appreciated that shift on desires, because I think we shame our desire. Desire sometimes is a naughty word, but it is God-given. It is a gift, and we need to look at it. And you may choose to pursue in a different direction, but at least acknowledging what's already there is really powerful. And so we do that. We just get this all out. And then with all of this information, these roadblocks cleared and everything, that's where we create our statement. But those are the big kind of boulders in our path. And we've got to tip them over into stepping stones before we can make any progress with getting to the truer heart of ourselves.
This is a very comprehensive blueprint that you've already shared, these 3 steps, and there are many things I could say about it. The one thing that came to my mind for sure to mention, because you mentioned the values and you said actually the aspirational values, which yes, it's like the idealisms rather than the actual. The values, our values or our highest values, are really demonstrated by our life. So whatever your life is right now, it is because of the values. So I liked how you made that differentiation about the expressed values rather than the aspirational one, as you said.
Thank
so
you.
It's a good reminder sometimes. And now that you said, it's been a while since I have done a values determination exercise, so maybe this is also a reminder, to from time to time you have to do those in personal development. You never arrive. You have to take the steps, and I think the master is someone who takes the little steps. Even 80 years on the journey, still doing the fundamentals.
They're foundational, right? I mean, the values we hold, I always say the core, like if you think about the compass of life, which paths do you want to set out on? The core values plus the vision for the future, what is and what can be, those set the North Pole on your compass. They set the magnetism. I think of it as like drawing kind of a rope around you and pulling you forward, right? It's where you start and where you want to go. And when we pair those two things, it's so powerful because we realize we already have half of the equation living inside of us. right? So like half the work is already done. It's who you are. And I think I have this notion with my parenting that I don't want to be an architect. I want to be an archaeologist. I don't want to build my children into something that I want to see. I want to uncover who they naturally, truly are. And of course, I'm going to have to set boundaries around behavior and things like that. But I am so curious about who they already are because the seed of who they can become is already planted inside of them. And it's just up to me to sort of scrape the layers off and give them the resources to dive deeper into themselves. And I think if we think of ourselves through that same lens, it gives us such permission to just stand where we are instead of constantly leaning forward. And I think the idea that there's more to do, there's stuff out there, right? With personal development, sometimes we get into this. Yes, we are constantly growing. Growth mindset is absolutely necessary, but there can be this sense of like reaching for the brass ring that exists outside of us. I think it's inside of us already. It's not about reaching out. It's about going deeper in. And like I need to correct boundaries with my kids, yes, sometimes strategies or systems or tools can be very useful on that road. But when you trust that it already is, gosh, that's just such a gift to all of us who are striving.
Certainly is. Completely agree with you, Lauren. I am going to switch gears and I want to ask you about something else that intrigued me about when I was researching. And you talk about the cycle of entrepreneurial enmeshment. So this is, from what I understand, a term that you have coined. So I wanted to ask you, first of all, what personal realization led to you, identifying this term?
So I think in the entrepreneurial space, you often hear about hustle culture, right? You hear about leaning in, doing more, do it all. And I certainly, as a solopreneur, was like, cool, and just did it all. And I was exhausted. And I have a very high threshold for pain. I have a very low need for sleep. And that really led to me feeling on edge, almost in burnout mode. Never fully went to burnout, thank goodness. But becoming a mother really changes your priorities. And I realized pretty quickly there was no way I could continue to coddle my clients and love on my baby fully. And so entrepreneurial enmeshment, you're right, I think I did coin this term. Basically, it comes from the sense of and is from internal family systems, the concept of enmeshment, psychological enmeshment with family members. But that for entrepreneurs, sometimes we opt for the same enmeshment with our business and our clients. So that sense that you need to constantly be on call when you are not doing life-saving work, right? Like, let's be honest. Kids getting their ACT and SAT prep, or me helping clients at SEO, I don't have to answer emails in 3 seconds. No one's going to die if I step away and stay present with my people. And so enmeshment is this sense of your self-worth fluctuates with your P&L. If you're not profitable, if you didn't make enough money today, you get really granular on it. You're constantly checking the stats. If you didn't get those download numbers, you didn't get whatever the case may be, whatever it is you do, that suddenly you are not valuable, right? That it pierces the wall of, hey, something might not have gone right. That there's that separation and you are connected to your business, almost like your business is like some sort of parasite leeching off of your body. And I realized it because I was here, right? I constantly, if a student didn't do well, even if they told me it was because they didn't apply the strategies I told them, I would take it on as a failure of mine. And it's you didn't do the thing I told you to. And I still was oh no, it was me. I didn't respond to their emails fast enough. And so I started looking around after I sort of put my finger on the pulse of this. I looked around and went, oh, like literally every person I know in the online space has some form or fashion of this like porousness between the boundary of who they are and the value they deliver as a human in their many different ways and their business, whether it's an inflated sense of importance in their business and really kind of bowing to that, this desire to save clients, right? I know better. I'm going to save you, this like savior complex. Or just plain old self-worth, or leaning into hustle culture to ignore their full self. And the problem with this is that when entrepreneurs do this, they've essentially just built themselves a job. They have not created a business. And so going pro really requires you to separate your identity from your business. They're two things. And so if you suffer from this idea of what do they call it? I'm gonna forget the term that people use, but this idea that only you can do it. You're gonna be the superhero in your business. You're gonna be the only person who touches every aspect of your business. That inability to let go, it can all be sort of from this concept that once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I feel like I sold that first company. I've moved into a second phase, and I'm now doing the SEO work with clients, and I'm so much better and so much more boundaried. But even like right now, I'm in a season right now of a launch, and I'm getting a little tipped in the direction of being off kilter. So I just know, all right, after this season of deep work, I have got to rein it back in. I need to give myself space to breathe. I brought on team members, which is new for me. And I feel like I'm healing, but the healing work is never done.
Thank you for this answer, and I liked you described already some of the signs if someone is in that trapped in a way in that.
Yeah.
You mentioned, and I want to ask you specifically of that, separating our identity from the business. So with someone listening to us right now and they realize that, yep, Lauren is right, I am exactly there. What's one step that they can do to start, separating exactly this? I will ask, separating your identity from what you do with your business.
So I believe that with a lot of personal development work, noticing is enough. If this is a totally new concept to you, just by noticing it, you've sort of snipped the threads of the knot, and you can trust that it's going to start to unravel. You're going to start to see it and go, oh, and now that you have a name for it, you can say, oh, that's my entrepreneurial enmeshment. That kind of now like it's not I'm failing because I have no boundaries. It's this exterior concept. So in the same way that like our purpose lives in ourselves, sometimes those realizations that live outside of ourselves, we can sort of put it on that, and then it'll allow it to sort of unfold. That said, I think being really clear about what you're trying to achieve in your business, this is really hard for creative entrepreneurs, but being really clear about your boundaries and saying, my full life is important. My business matters, and there will be seasons like I am in right now where I have to double down. I have to say no to some of the fun stuff. I have to say no to some of my kids' requests. My family went and played miniature golf this weekend without me because I was documenting systems. Sometimes you do have to say no because you're in a season, but being able to state boundaries and hold to them when you're in just regular, modus operandi, then it's very important to sort of acknowledge when you are choosing something different versus sliding into it. So I think noticing is enough, and then being really clear with your boundaries and being really clear about when you're making a different choice, and it's an exception, not the rule.
That's great. Thank you for this. That was very useful and practical also. Lauren, I have two questions that I always ask my guests at the end of the
Okay.
conversation. Before I do, share with the listener where they can find out more about you and connect.
Absolutely. So everything lives at laurengaggioli.com. But if you're specifically interested in the purpose side of things, bigwhylife.com will take you right to the page where I share about the course, those first 3 exercises, the 2 about naming your purpose, and then the 3 about moving into action. And so if you want to learn more about that and how to connect, that is a great place to go.
2 final quick questions then, Lauren. And the first one is, what does personal development mean to you?
I think it means, and I've sort of already circled around this, but I think it really means that when I'm feeling off kilter, I don't reach outside myself, I reach inside myself.
Mm-hmm.
And ensuring that the personal comes before the development, right? And owning that there's already a lot of good that's here.
Beautiful answer. And a hypothetical question. If you could go back in time and meet your 18-year-old self, what's one piece of advice you would give her?
Trust your gut. The irony is, I went to college, I did all the things, I dotted the I's, I crossed the T's, and I'm an entrepreneur. We could have known this. We could have known this because little 10-year-old Lauren was always dreaming up businesses. And I'm really not convinced that my college experience, getting a theater degree, is the reason I am where I am. And I knew it. I knew it in high school, and no one was listening to me. And so I was a people pleaser. I jumped through the hoops. I did the thing. I would just tell her, you are right about who you are. Nobody else knows who you are deep inside the way you know. Trust that and follow that.
That's so good, and I also can relate personally with that.
Yes.
Lauren, I want to thank you very much for this absolutely insightful conversation. I enjoyed it very much. I want to wish you all the very best with your mission and your purpose and what you're doing helping other entrepreneurs. I will leave it with you with any actionable parting words of wisdom.
I follow a lot of parenting experts, air quotes, experts.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that I love and come home to all the time is Dr. Becky. And she reminds us all that we're good inside. And I think, that partnered with the idea of desire being God-given or universe granted, whatever way you want to think about it, we need more people living in their purpose because our world is better if you follow your dreams. And that sounds really like woo-woo and heady, but there's a practical side of it of taking action, of course, but it starts with the vision. It starts with the values and then the vision. And so if you can follow that, it's going to pull you forward into a life that is exactly right for you. Big, loud, quiet, small, doesn't matter. Don't judge it. Your desires are important.
And before I end today's episode, if you enjoy this podcast, can you think of one person that would find it useful and share it with them? I'd really appreciate it. It helps the show grow and you also add value to people you care about. Thank you. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in,